Meanwhile, back here, Nigeria's 2020 budget is predicated on an oil price of $57 per barrel and a production of 2.18 million barrels per day. Analysts say the current shale output in the U.S. is likely to put downward pressure on prices. But let's check out how vulnerable the Nigerian economy is to these shocks. Analyst Aisat Dahoud, one of the research analysts with Financial Derivatives Company, joins us now. Hello, Aisat. Merry Christmas to you, and good afternoon.
Hi, Chimeze.
So how vulnerable is the Nigerian economy to the downward pressure on oil prices, and what mitigants would you recommend to insulate it from the downside risks?
Nigeria's 2020 budget was proposed October 8, 2019, and there were reasonable assumptions that were used to benchmark the crude oil price at $57 per barrel and the production output of 2.1 million barrels per day. These are reasonable assumptions, and they are going to make effect yield. So the U.S. shale production, oil production, will have an adverse effect on price if oil production output continues to climb. The oil supply was going to be expanding faster than demand, and that's going to have an economic effect on price. Price is going to fall downwards, and if price fall downwards, Nigeria is very, very vulnerable to oil shocks. So the best way to mitigate or insulate Nigeria from this downside risk is to have a forward contract on crude oil sales. That's for us to hedge against if the prices should fall below current price of $65 per barrel.
Nigeria's trade with China is currently 19.7% of total imports. The trade imbalance with China is about 86%. The Chinese economy is likely to slow down due to a number of factors. What will the impact of the lull in the Chinese economy be on Nigeria's 2020 budget?
So the Chinese economy slowdown is as a result of the long-running trade dispute between the great United States and China itself, and then the slow domestic demand. This can have an adverse effect on the world economy and also on economic growth. China is the largest exporter in the world, and it's also the second largest economy in the world. So if the economic growth of China continues to fall on decline, it's going to affect the world majorly. But however, the decline in China's economic growth has not been that substantial. As at last year in 2018, it grew slower at the rate of 7%, and this year is growing slower at the rate of 6.1%. So a less than 1% decline in China's economic growth is very insignificant and will have a major impact on Nigerian economy. China is a very big trading partner, import trade partner with us, and we also export crude oil and other items to Chinese.
And President Trump's election agenda is supposedly based on expectations of a falling oil price. Now, this is because the U.S. consumers do not like to pay for high fuel price during elections. What are the chances that Trump will have his way, and what can Nigeria do to reduce the impact?
To start with, crude oil is a very volatile commodity. It's set to be non-static. So, and trust me, there's no candidate that would win votes with rising price of basic needs such as crude oil. So there's this very high chance that Trump is going to have his way with falling oil prices. Let's look at it. It's very well said. Saudi Arabia and the United States, they have this close trade relationship, and this relationship has been ongoing for over 7 decades. 7 decades. A relationship as such is more or less like family. So United States and China and Saudi Arabia are said to be friends, and they're going to have each other's back. So Trump has a very high chance of having the price of crude oil to fall beyond. Like I said earlier, if the U.S. shale should continue to increase its oil production, and there are recent signs that the U.S. shale production, oil production will continue to climb and then fall. It continued to climb until mid-2020 and then fall and might even reverse midway into year 2020. So the short-term impact from the fall of the price, if the production of the U.S. shale to continue to increase, is going to be have an impact on us in Nigeria, but it's going to be for a short term. So the best way to mitigate or insulate Nigeria from these downside risks of the falling oil price is for us to have a forward contract on the sale of crude oil, whereby we can sell at a price and we know, we are rest assured, if the price should fall below the current rate of $65 per barrel, we are safe. And if it should go above $65 per barrel, we are still on the safe side. We wouldn't lose too much. So that's the best way out for Nigeria to insulate itself from the fall of oil shock price.
All right, Aisat, let's hope for the best. In the meantime, I'm sure you're already in the Christmas mood. Enjoy your Christmas holiday and Merry Christmas, Aisat. And a Tunisian startup is offering commuters an alternative to hard-to-find taxis in an effort to enhance the country's transportation sector, hoping to lessen the burden of citizens struggling to find efficient means of transport in Tunisia. The newly launched startup, Intego, has introduced the country's first taxi scooter. Let's watch this.
At least 30% lower than the price of an ordinary taxi, Intego's taxi scooters are not only more affordable, but also easier and quicker to find on Tunisia's busy streets.
We launched the taxi scooter because we saw that the biggest obstacle for the Tunisian people is transportation. No matter their social group, age, or gender, everyone has a transportation problem. So we decided to provide a solution to this urgent problem that we are facing. But this is not our final goal. Our vision goes beyond that. We want to lay the groundwork for the prosperity of digital economy.
Passengers can order an Intego taxi scooter using an app developed by the Tunisian startup. The cost of the ride is exhibited to the customer before the trip is confirmed, and the company only hires certified motorcycle drivers who are required to take several tests prior to their employment.
The idea is very good. It is going to facilitate the transportation of the people and passengers because we have a huge problem in public and private transportation. So the presence of this motorcycle is going to facilitate the transportation of citizens.
If the company's trial run proves successful by December, Intego plans to distribute some 50 taxi scooters in the cities of Tunis, Ariana, Benarouz, and Manouba.
When we come back, we'll see what the Christmas Eve is like in South Africa. To stay with us.